Welcome to the Mixing Babies and Business podcast. I'm your host, Amy Lynch. I'm covering all things parenthood, business, flexible, and remote work with kids. Think of it as your virtual village where you can tune into stories from other business and community leaders who also happen to be parents negotiating for their needs, taking up space, and navigating the future of work. Season 6 is sponsored by the Mixing Babies and Business Changemaker program for people who want to do things differently, create an impact, and advocate for primary caregivers and their families along the way. Sign up to learn more at mixingbabiesandbusiness.com/changemaker. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, like, follow, and leave a review online. It helps other parents find the podcast. Martin Barnes is a parent of 6-year-old twins, founder of 8 Seconds to Connect, and graphic artist at ThisCityArt. With 20 years of experience in design, film, advertising, as a guest speaker, creative director, trainer, and lecturer, Martin is focused on supporting C-suite leaders with their messaging and delivery. This is the third and final episode of our conversation, where we're going to talk about professional development, what the future may hold, and how you can get in touch with Martin to learn more about his work. Let's get into it. In terms of yourself as an entrepreneur, a business owner, and someone who's coaching other executives, is there any ways besides podcasts that you currently invest in yourself as a parent?
So I make sure that I go to I do all the school drop-offs. So I'm there in the morning, there in the evening, pick them up from school, take them to gymnastics, take them rock climbing. And I love those conversations in the car, because you just have, either they go down the rabbit hole of why, and you're answering all these questions. And then I've always got an exercise we do in my public speaking is to be like, grab a kid's book and read it really flat. So for example, Julia Donaldson's The Gruffalo. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you read that. When people are struggling to communicate properly, I'll be like, you're very monotone. And so we'll grab a kid's book and I'll be like, read it how you've just spoken, and it's super flat and boring. And then I'll show them how you should read it to a kid. And I'm like, go to the library, get some kids' books and get your phone and read them aloud to the phone. And then you'll hear whether you are being an interesting speaker. And that really was inspired by driving my kids everywhere and having conversations with them and realizing that communication, there's that saying that you should be able to communicate an idea to a 5-year-old and a 75-year-old. That's my life. Because I've got two 6-year-olds and two 75-year-olds, and I have to communicate to them all the time. And I think that's an incredible investment in terms of your communication skills, because you can't overcomplicate it. You can't be long, boring. You can't add too much context. You've got to get to the juice real quick, because the old people will just tell you to hurry up and the young people will just walk away. And so I love this. I think more people should get these different communication dynamics more familiar, and then they will feel when they're communicating properly. And then when they're communicating to a peer adult professional, they'll see how it just connects super quick, because they're actually communicating with intention.
I haven't tried singing at my audience or with another adult, but I do break into songs sometimes whenever I'm giving instructions, because I find they listen to it better if it's in a verse and I do rhyming, or I'll put on a soundtrack from a movie or something like that. And I just find the flow of the transitions or what you're trying to do can be a lot easier. But it also helps me get my voice into shape, I guess, for the podcast if I bust into song before I drop them at summer camps or something. I usually like to ask this question of every guest, and some people get sentimental and others, I don't know, I guess it's a question you don't really get asked that often, but we're in the future, your girls have grown up. What kind of world do you hope that they grow up in? And how is the work that you're working on right now contributing to that, if at all?
Wow. I think at the moment, I think a lot about, we just had their school reports come back. And so we've got end of second year of school, and we're sort of seeing stuff. And my wife, being Chinese, has quite high educational standards. And she looked at the report and she was a bit like, what? And I was a bit like, I'm dyslexic. For me personally, and especially with all the stuff that's going on right now with tech and AI, I'm like, I want them to be confident, happy, and be able to communicate. To me, that's success. Because, they're 6 right now. So let's say 13 years, they might be going to university. What is university going to look like in 16 years? I mean, I'm certainly not going to pay hundreds of thousands of pounds for them to go sit in a room and listen to someone talk when they can, they grab phones And so I was doing some work the other day, and they came into my office and they saw a photograph, AI generated image of a chicken holding an egg, and they burst out laughing. They thought it was hilarious. They go, "Daddy, what's this?" I'm like, "It's an AI image." And they go, "Can we make an image with the A and the I?" And I remember pausing for a minute. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a crossroads because you cannot undo this. So do I just brush it off and say, "Oh, let's go and do something"? And then I went, "Okay, but you can make 5." And I said, "What do you want to see?" And they just came up with the most incredible kid imagination thing, like a badger sitting in a car, but the car's a boat and the boat's on a piece of cheese. And I just typed that in and I was like, "That's an amazing prompt." And then they created an image. And then you could just see the two of them, their eyes started to you could see the sort of ideas exploding in their heads, and they were taking it in turns and they were iterating off each other and they were prompting the heck out of this AI. And by limiting it to 5, and then I always put at the end of the prompt in a Disney style because I didn't want it to go completely wherever. And they then started to understand that they had 5 goes. And as they got to go 3, 4, and 5, they started to slow down, be really intentional. They were thinking about what they wanted. And I was like, this is really interesting because this is just the beginning. I mean, they talk to Siri, they know how to get Disney Plus up. So university now, when they go to university, will there be university? Will it be YouTube University? Will it be, who knows? So I just want them to be able to communicate, for them to be confident and to be happy, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, like you've said, your Lego block analogy of having the right mindset as the fundamental piece and then being able to go from there is really the key. Thanks for sharing so much about your family and giving us a bit of insight into what your life is like. I find it really refreshing when people are willing to be vulnerable and share things that they don't always post on LinkedIn or the highlight reel. How can we connect with you, Martin, and your company 8 Seconds to Connect?
Well, the only social media I have time for is LinkedIn, even though the algorithm is absolutely crushing any posts I put out there. So please come and find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM. If you mention this show, it will really resonate and I will start a great conversation. And if people want to, improve their presentation skills, my website's got loads of content on, but I actually have a scorecard that I can put the link in the show notes where people can just answer some basic questions and get a sense if their strategy for public speaking is going to get them a return on their time and investment and their effort, because I want people to be really charismatic speakers. And so if we can put that link in the show notes, that's the best way to then get some value for yourself. I'll get your email and then I'll be able to reach out and we can have another conversation.
All right. Thanks again, Martin. But yeah, I'm just curious, do you think because your mom's an ex-teacher, this has kind of influenced your career choice or your approach to trying to make things more engaging and come at things a bit differently?
Probably. I mean, my dad was a teacher as well. And I remember my mum said to me once, she goes, "If you become a teacher, I'm going to cut you off." She was basically she's quite blunt. And what took me to China was actually teaching design. And then after doing a sort of tour of duty in advertising and film and all this sort of stuff, actually realizing that I like helping people be better at communicating, which is essentially teaching. And I did a teaching qualification at the end of 2019. And that was fantastic because it gave me what I'd intuitively taught myself. It gave me some sort of academic frameworks that really, I believe, have taken me up a level from where I was in 2018, 2019 to where I am now. So yeah, no, it is quite funny.
Thanks again to Martin for taking his time to speak with me about parenthood, pitching, getting your message across effectively, and what it's been like adapting his work to being a parent of 6-year-old twins. Check out his work at 8secondstoconnect.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, or follow and leave a review. It helps other parents around the world find the podcast. Connect with me online and access your parent-friendly, entrepreneurship, flexible, and remote work resources at mixingbabiesandbusiness.com. Thanks for listening.